How's it going, guys? This is Ryo Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. So welcome to my second series of Ryo Murata travels through Chiba Prefecture, the state located on the right side of Tokyo. And Chiba Prefecture looks just like Florida, actually. So Tateyama Chiba. I never knew much about this location specifically until a fellow photographer at my workplace said that one of his friends actually runs a pizza shop in Tateyama Chiba, and that was sort of instigated me to sort of like research about this area in particular, and it kind of intrigued me, and I did some digging and thought it would be nice to sort of like travel there once in a while because I never been there. I heard about it, but what kind of like adventure lies beyond that region. So Tateyama, to sum it up, it's hard to explain to you guys, but for people who are new, Tateyama is basically a location located in Chiba Prefecture, which, like I said, looks like similar to Florida, and it's, I guess, location-wise, like Miami, if I'm right. It's at the tip of the peninsula, and a little bit of history fact for you guys. Around in like 1456, this area was actually ruled by samurais. The Yoshimi family actually conquered this area for roughly 170 years, from 1450 to 1650 or so. And during this period of time, they built their own castle, and the sort of like the city itself sort of became dependent on the fishing industry. And under their control, what was interesting is around in 1919, 1920s or so, the railway basically connected Tateyama and Tokyo, downtown Tokyo, which back then, if I'm right, took 4 hours. But as of 2023, it takes roughly 2.5 hours on train. And back then, this area was sort of like a resort area for the people who wanted to get this like want to leave downtown and have this sort of like forget about work and stuff like that. But as time progressed and as of like 2020 or so, because the mainland Japan itself, the majority of areas you can basically travel on trains, Shinkansen, and various like transportation methods such as airplanes, ships and stuff like that. Tateyama sort of started to lose its shine, and more people started to sort of like become hesitant to go to this location because it was kind of far away actually. And in order to sort of like access this area, you only have 3 options: riding the bus, which you have luggage restriction, you can only bring like 1 or 2 bags, and riding the train, which if you ride the typical like local train, there's like 22 stops away from Tokyo actually, which takes a long time. And there's actually an express train, however that train itself only operates from 3 or 4 o'clock, no, 5 o'clock in the afternoon actually. So, and my option available was riding the local train that stops 22 stops, but I didn't mind because I thought it would be nice to just travel there. And there's like rather something interesting about this Tateyama region. Like I said, it has this sort of like Florida or maybe California vibe. And I started my day shooting with Gold 200, as always, the medium format GW690 Mark III, and I started my day. After like shooting on the first day, I basically stayed at a hotel called Tune Higoro, and it's hard to explain, but this hotel has like two variations. The Tune Higoro, which I stayed in, which the hotel rooms are separate, but the sink, shower, and the lounge is shared. And there's another one called Tune hostel, which is more like a dormitory where you basically share rooms and stuff like that. And they basically renovated a rundown sort of like building, and the place I stayed at, the third floor was actually a co-working space office for people who are working remote, and the second floor was a location where I basically stayed. It's sort of like a hotel. And on the first floor, which was interesting, was that they allocated that space to creating sort of like craft gin made in Japan actually, and there's a Japanese person who actually runs that gin factory stuff. And beside that, there was a bar actually, which opens during the night, which was really interesting. And as a souvenir, I actually bought one. because interestingly enough, I actually brought Cinestill 800T, shot some photos, but I never sort of like incorporated into this video because there were two problems that arose, which one, it would make this video freaking long, unfortunately, and two is the results that I got from my Cinestill 800T during my Tateyama trip wasn't adequate in my opinion, and this is due to the fact that I'm more unexperienced with shooting with Cinestill. I started shooting with it, and I never thought that Cinestill 800T will look pretty bad, especially in super high contrast areas, which I never mentioned on my channel. And when I say super contrast environments, I'm saying where there's shadow areas to the bright areas. And I basically shot around the what I call the bar area in Tateyama. And if you guys know about Japanese bars, which are really old, the what I call the LEDs that are like flat, not flashing, but more like illuminated, I guess it is due to the plastic that they used back then, like 10-20 years ago. It's similar to the headlights of current cars and old cars, if you know the difference. I mean, the old cars have this frosted like plastic, and when the LED hits it, there's a hot spot, you know. While the newer cars, the headlight itself is so pure, clean, it's like clear, transparent, that when light shoots through that headlight, light evenly distributes. It's hard to explain, but similar concepts for signs, especially in this area. There is this hot spot and it becomes super bright when I do long exposures, and I did not get the results that I was going after, so I never like posted it, but here are some examples. However, some of the family restaurants, such as the Kuruma what you call restaurant, which is I guess famous in this area, looked really nice, especially the reds and stuff. And also I shot the pizza shop, actually, long exposure, and I also enjoyed that shot. Those two were the only great shots that I shot during this trip. Other than that, I had terrible results, so unfortunately to say, but it was actually a great opportunity to shoot around this area, specifically thanks to my friend, my photographer friend at my workplace, who sort of suggested me to go to here because his friend runs sort of like a pizza shop. And it's like really interesting to mention also on my channel that there's these like small events, small talks, small what you call informations that your friends or families or anyone that sort of, it's like sprinkling little glaze on top of a donut. I mean, you don't think much about it, but when you have this small curiosity of doing a little bit of research and we start digging into that specific area, it kind of propels you forward, whether or not if it's like worth taking the effort to go to that location. And there are things where unless you take a dive in that, you know, the ocean or the river and stuff like that, you won't find what's underneath that, you know, water, the surface. So this is sort of like my advice. Like if there's something that like interests you, if there's anything that kind of brings that curiosity, it's best to take that, you know, a sort of like chance and just go for it, because typically in most cases you might not find anything interesting, but in my case I typically try to do it because I might find something interesting in that specific location, especially when traveling. So yeah, I talked a lot, unfortunately, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions regarding Japan, I'm happy to reply. And please note that I use the local sort of like transportation system. I use their buses frequently on this Tateyama trip, and the buses are actually really run down and they do not accept IC cashless type of cards like Suica, Passmo, and you basically have to bring cold hard cash and you have to pay by sort of like coins actually, which caught my attention actually because I did not have any coins, and if you don't have any coins you had to stick in a $10 bill, get a sort of like exchange change, and then you pay from there. So that was a little bit hectic, so that's one of the things I need to like mention. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will see you next time. Peace out.